Pythagoras, born more than 2,500 years ago, known as one of, if not the most famous mathematician to ever live, credited for theorems such as the renowned Pythagorean Theorem. His proofs, postulates, and discoveries continue to impact us today. Together with his cult, he created one of the most influential mathematical groups in all of history, directly influencing other great people such as Plato and Aristotle. His accomplishments permanently affect the fiber and essence of mathematics.
Pythagoras was born in 580 BCE in Samos, located off the coast of present-day Turkey. As he grew up, he befriended a man by the name of Thales. Thales said to Pythagoras,
"Pythagoras, leave this corrupt, dangerous city and journey to Egypt where I once traveled. You will be able to acquire an immense amount of knowledge from the Egyptian natives."
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. في هذا الدرس سنتحدث عن واحدة من أهم القوانين في عالم الرياضيات.
This is a theorem for finding the length of the hypotenuse of any right triangle. The theorem states the sum of the areas of the two squares on the legs equals the area of the square on the hypotenuse. In this example, we have a triangle with side lengths 3, 4, and 5.
After experiencing and learning the Egyptian ways, Pythagoras returned and settled in Croton off the eastern coast of Italy. There he began his school of mathematics, and the Pythagorean Brotherhood was born.
The Pythagorean religion revolved around a very special triangle, the tetractys. It represented the universe itself. Each row represented a different dimension. The first row represented 0 dimensions, a single point in space. The second row represented 1 dimension, such as a line. The third row represented 2-dimensional figures, such as a triangle or a square. The fourth row represented 3-dimensional figures, such as a sphere or a cube. They prayed and made sacrifices to this very special triangle.
Pythagoras taught geocentrism, stating that the Earth was a sphere in the center of the cosmos, or the universe, that the planets, stars, and the universe were spherical because the sphere was the most perfect solid figure. He also taught that the paths of the planets were circular. Pythagoras recognized that the morning star was the same as the evening star, being the planet Venus. He believed numbers made up and controlled the entire universe. In this way, numbers were very special to Pythagoras. He didn't think as 7 as a number greater than 5 but less than 10. He thought of 7 as just 7, each number being its own unique being and coming together to form ratios which made up the universe, and that all triangles, rectangles, and squares' dimensions should exist in integer ratios. He believed that all things are numbers. Mathematics is the basis for everything, and geometry is the highest form of mathematical studies. The physical world can be understood through mathematics. Numbers have personalities, characteristics, strengths, and weaknesses. Odd numbers were masculine, and even numbers were feminine.
All these philosophies were the foundation for the Pythagorean Brotherhood. If one wanted to join the Brotherhood, they had to go through a strict initiation procedure. After a tough interview, they had to swear an oath on the tetractys, sign over all their worldly possessions to the group, and take a 5-year vow of silence. During this period, they became second-class citizens known as the akousmatikoi, or listeners, said to only have been able to listen to Pythagoras teach from behind a veil. Eventually, they would graduate to become mathematikoi, members of the inner circle.
Topics of discussion included infinity, musical ratios, number theory, and of course, the Pythagorean theorem itself.
All was good in the Brotherhood until one day when Pythagoras' world was shattered.
One of Pythagoras' students, a man by the name of Hippasus, proved that there was a triangle in which all 3 sides could not be represented as a ratio of 3 integers, but that in fact one of the sides would have to be an irrational number.
Haha, Pythagoras, when you have a triangle with legs of equal length, the ratio of legs to the hypotenuse cannot be expressed using integers. If you take the square of A and add it to B, it will not fit evenly inside of square C.
All the pieces of Pythagoras' philosophy were fitting perfectly together. That is, until Hippasus came and started tearing his theories apart. Pythagoras would not allow this to happen. He had to eliminate Hippasus.
And so Pythagoras took Hippasus and brought him out to sea before he could spread his blasphemous ideas. Rejecting irrational numbers is thought to be one of Pythagoras' biggest mistakes.
Ah, beans! Ah! 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 What was that, you ask?
Probably didn't see this one coming. Pythagoras was terrified of beans. No one knows why, but it could be because
they were shaped like babies' heads.
Or maybe because he didn't want his whole school smelling like flatulence.
Or because many people in the Mediterranean were allergic to fava beans.
Or even because they dried up other plants.
regardless of the beans, Pythagoras' world was coming to a close.
His group was very involved in politics and had recently supported the losing side in conflict. As a result, his school was burned and many of his students were murdered.
Chaos erupted from the school of Pythagoras. Many of his students fled in fear, and there are many various theories on how Pythagoras died, the most famous of which is that Pythagoras was being chased by an angry mob when he came to a bean field and exclaimed,
"'Tis better to die by the sword than to trample on a field of beans."
and then he was murdered.
In the end, Pythagoras remains one of history's greatest mysteries. Was he the greatest mathematician of all time, or not even a mathematician at all? Was he Jewish, Buddhist, Zoroastrian, his own religion? No one knows. It's all lost to history and left to our speculation. In the book Men of Mathematics, Eric Temple Bell put it best.
Pythagoras then imported proofs into mathematics. This is his greatest achievement. Before him, geometry had been largely a collection of rules of thumb, empirically arrived at without the slightest suspicion that all were deducible from a comparatively small number of postulates.
Regardless of what Pythagoras actually did or accomplished, it is clear that he significantly impacted all of history until today.